Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Needens, and I'm one of the social workers with the Cognitive Care Network here at KU Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. And we're going to talk about something fun today, and that is family games. There are many times through the year that we might be getting together with families that playing games is more likely. We may see that, for example, on New Year's Eve. We may see that at family reunions. We may see that at other holiday events. So we're just going to have a conversation about perhaps what might impact you in terms of the family games, but more importantly, how you feel about participating. Those of you who have been listening to Mindful Minutes know very well that we always are concerned about your own level of anxiety as you enter into sometimes group and other activities. And so we pay attention to that, and we're just going to talk about adapting. It is so important that you continue to participate and engage and accommodate those blips that occur as a result of your diagnosis to continue in life in an enjoyable way. So let's think about what is it that we really want to avoid. So one of those are games that add stress or expectation. And what might that look like? So if it is a complicated game, maybe it's a game that you have been very, very good at, but very complicated. Maybe you've been the best player out there. And so when you sit down to play, you are constantly replaying in your head this comparison to how you played before. And if that is the case, I want you to avoid that game. I don't want you to get in your own way of having a set of expectations as you play. So the games are about fun. They're not about performance. So let's just think about that and maybe eliminate games or convert games, accommodate games that might raise some sense of stress. I would avoid beat the clock rules. Some of you may be able to manage that rapid pace very easily, some not so much. Some you can manage it, but it increases the stress around it. It makes it less fun. So there's a lot of enjoyment in just playing games as families. I recently got together with a few family members, and one of them pulled out a guessing game. There was a whole bunch of rules attached to that. I didn't know the rules, didn't care about the rules. We didn't play the rules. We simply guessed. So we'd go around the room and guess. We didn't oblige any of the other rules, and we had a wonderful time. So we can adjust that and eliminate that expectation for speed. Numbers may be a bit of a challenge. So if it is a game that requires some mathematical calculations, etc., that may add some stress, it may be more problematic, may be something that you would want to reconsider. And then for some of you, you may struggle with fine motor tasks. So those of you watching may have a variety of cognitive challenges, from mild cognitive impairment to early Alzheimer's to early other things, including perhaps early Lewy body dementia. And some of the dementias have within them some fine motor challenges early on. If that is the case, then we just want to avoid games that require that. What do we want to consider? What do we want to add in or make sure is there? Number one, fun. We want to come into the room with an expectation that we're enjoying the people in the room and we're enjoying a task together. Simple as that. We want to think about teamwork. So it's fun to have teams or partners to do things, and that does a couple of things. Number one, it is a shared experience. It takes some pressure off you. So it provides you what I call the wingman. So if you if you lose a word, or you're finding yourself in a situation where it's just a little stressful, that you're partnered with someone who knows you well enough to kind of jump in and provide some support. So, but teams tend to work, partners tend to work. Adaptive rules. You know, if people are playing a game and it, you know, that has a lot of different rules to it, find a way to simplify it. You lead that path. Games that have reminiscent element, whether they're games that you have played over and over in history, or actually have questions like trivia games around, you know, songs of the 1950s or whatever. Or sometimes there's games like Finish the Sang, or whatever it is, Name That Tune. Any of that is wonderful and fun. Sometimes we want to consider games that have some opinion element. Guess what? You have a lot of thoughts. You have a lot of good thoughts. You have interesting perspectives. So games that utilize all of that, I think, are wonderful. And games and activities that require imagination. You know, it's a wonderful brain game just to imagine. And oftentimes we shut down imagination as we get older. And that creative imagination element is a wonderful exploration of ourselves, our thoughts, and sharing with others. This is an example of one of the ways to use that imagination, and it's not a board game by any stretch, but it is an activity for families, especially intergenerational families, and it's a activity called Time Slips. It's actually a evidence-based program that was started at the University of Wisconsin-Madison some years ago by a woman by the name of Ann Bastings, and so this was for older adults, but certainly has been expanded and used in all kinds of ways. And I myself have used it in intergenerational, just family settings, and I just love it. So you find these unusual pictures, or pictures that have some ability to launch imagination. It can't be too realistic. Now, the picture on the screen is a bit realistic. I have all kinds of crazy pictures in my stockpile, from a little boy who's lassoing an alligator, to a woman who's vacuuming a horse pasture, to a man in a tuxedo, roller skating on an interstate, you know, all kinds of, to a group of women who appear to be in their 80s playing in a basketball game. So there's something that launches some imagination. And so you start with that, and then you begin asking a series of questions. There is a formal Time Slips program. We're not talking about integrating that kind of program. We're talking about how can we use it as a family activity. So you could just go around the room asking questions to create the story. Who are these people? What's their names? How old are they? Where did they come from? In this particular picture, did they know each other, or did he just spontaneously ask her to dance? Why did he choose her? Why did she accept? What was going on before they attended the event? Were they there alone? What was the event? How long did they talk? What happened afterwards? Who are the children that are observing, and what are the children's stories? All those kind of things. But to take turns asking questions, and then just getting the feedback of everybody in the family about what that story might be. I have participated in many Time Slips activities, and it is always braided with lots of laughter. Where do you find pictures? You can find them on the internet. Even if you Google Time Slips pictures, you'll see some of these and many others. While there's a formal time slips website, it's been adapted so many ways that you can find pictures. I find my pictures in greeting cards. There's many greeting cards that have the picture on the front and the writing inside. So you are left with this picture. You want to enlarge it. I put them in page protectors, then you make a copy for everybody in the room that's doing it. And why is that? Because kids can lose interest. People really want to study the card as you ask questions. It just keeps people connected. So everybody gets a copy, and somebody is the scribe and writes down. Somebody is kind of the guider of the conversation. And absolutely, this can be done on Zoom family visits. If you're in a situation, maybe for a holiday that you're not able to get together, but you're going to do a family Zoom, screen can be shared, the picture can be put up, and those kind of conversations can happen. How long do they take? I would say a story could be, I've been in situations where the story took an hour, and I've been in situations where, really the story took 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be clean. It doesn't, it's not, it can be interesting and funny. We're not talking about perfection and publication. We're just talking about crazy conversation and enjoyment. Word guessing games can be fun. Again, I encourage abandoning the timer. You may be a competitive soul and want that timer included. That's up to you. But I will tell you, if that stands in your way of participating, if it contributes at all to stress, it should be abandoned. Group or team activity, and there are many games. In this particular game, heads up, the person doesn't know the word. Everybody else is describing the word until they guess what the word is. There are games where it's the flip version, that the person has the word and the group is guessing. So either way, you don't ever have to be the one trying to guess the word. You could be the one giving the clues if you want to. That is up to you. That is your comfort level. But to know you don't have to take that turn, again, take the pressure off yourself. Matching games are fun. Lots of people have history with these two particular games. Many people, I know of lots of families where it's just a tradition to play dominoes. I like the dominoes that are a bit larger and with the colors. It just makes a big difference from a visual spatial perspective to differentiate the dots and the numbers. So I encourage that. And of course, Uno has that too with the different colors. So those are good games to play. And there's lots of ways to play them. I love personal story games. One of the oldest among them is the game Reminiscing, which has questions to just share stories. And again, when you're talking about intergenerational, sometimes you can learn interesting things about your kids that you didn't know, and certainly can about your grandkids. So it gives some focus or friends or whoever's, part of your defined or contrived family. So any of that. Reminiscing comes out in all kinds of versions. There are decade versions like the 1950s versions of Reminiscing, or a holiday version. There's a Christmas version of Reminiscing. There's a sports version of Reminiscing. So like the trivia games, you can get kind of specific types of Reminiscing, but just is a fun way to learn about each other and to tell stories. There's other games, and Best Story Wins is another one of those where you just pull a card and answer the question. Some of these games, including Best Story Wins, you have to filter the questions a bit. Some of them are not appropriate for kids, I would say, and you just edit the card deck and get rid of the cards that may not make sense. or inappropriate in some way, but use the cards where there's lots of stories. So, some of the cards might be, talk about a time that you might have skipped school, for example, or talk about a time you were proud of an accomplishment, or so the best story wins. But they're fun and sometimes kind of unusual questions that trigger all those memories in our lives that sometimes get put on the back burner and we don't think about, perhaps don't even recall until it's triggered by some of these questions. And then what would you do, or what happened kind of games. There's many of those kind of games around. Sometimes they're real specific, like there's what they call a justice game, where they describe a crime and then you have to decide what happened and was the criminal found guilty or not. It's usually a misdemeanor kind of situation, or white crime kind of situation. Then you have to figure out what the jury decided. And so there's those specific things. So you may have family members who are attorneys or in criminal justice or law enforcement in some way that might enjoy something like that, or you for yourself. But there's also general games that just have interesting questions that spawn these wonderful conversations in families, like table topics. And then there's a game, there's an example on the left side, most likely two, that really explores personality features and how people see one another, and that can be fun. Description games. Many of you may enjoy game shows. I know lots of people who like to watch the various game shows, the Wheel of Fortunes and that kind of thing. And there are board game renditions of most of those, including Family Feud as one of the description games. And like Reminiscing, there's lots of versions of Family Feud. There's a holiday version of Family Feud, and most people know how to play. And again, you don't have to have teams. You can or you cannot. You can just play together as a family. There's an online version, and then there's a hybrid of that's similar in some ways to Family Feud, called Herd Mentality. Again, what do you think about? I think it has interesting graphics in the game pieces, as you see here, that make it fun. And then beyond games, there's also activities that can be done. And I think the best when we're talking about an intergenerational experience is either a singular task, like the example with making a fleece blanket, where people are just tying knots and all around, putting it out on the table and everybody's around the table tying the knots, and that perhaps you're making it for a homeless shelter, that there's a benevolent goal in mind as you make some sort of craft or gift, or cookie tins or whatever. And sometimes families will do it assembly line. So everybody's just doing one thing, that one person puts the icing on the cookie, one person adds the dots of the face, and one person puts the sprinkles, or whatever it is. One person just puts in the box, one person puts the ribbon around the box, whatever that is, but assembly line, and that can be very fun. While I say eliminate to some degree the beat the clock and all that, sometimes it can be fun in these craft activities to have a competition, who made the best one, or what's the funniest one, or what's the most unusual piece of that, or whatever it is. All in all, I want you to stand open to really experiencing family games, and to think about doing things together, and to be prepared to adapt. You don't have to follow the rules. You can do things differently. Rules can change, rules can be eliminated. The goal is simply to connect with people that you enjoy and care about and have fun. We need more of that in our life. So I wish for you lots of wonderful family activity. And lots of time, if your family's not available, create it with friends, but to connect to others. As always, if you have questions or thoughts about this mindful minute and want to process, do not hesitate to reach out to us at the KU Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. Take good care.